So we are going to try again and see if we do better this week with the sound on the video. So go ahead and let me know. I think what happened last week, so I am recording this obviously through my laptop, and I think my sound is usually okay on my phone, but on my laptop, I think what was the problem that came up last week was that I was leaning back too far. I just got way too relaxed with you folks. So anyway, I will try to stay closer to the camera and to the microphone. I guess a microphone makes more sense than the camera. And we will see how we do with sound this time. We are talking about what sold on eBay and Poshmark and Ruby Lane, Etsy, and actually we had a Depop sale. And this is July 23rd through the 29th is what we're going to talk about. So starting off with a coffee mug. And you might have seen this coffee mug. It was something we picked up on our recent trip to Washington. So in one of those haul videos, I talked about finding this one. And I think what had happened when I talked about finding it, I know I've used the term mariner mug because a lot of times these mugs are popular for people on boats, travel. They're great for desks, commuters. Sometimes this shape has like a lid that comes with it. Anyway, and anything with like that wide bottom where it doesn't spill very easily is usually a mug that will sell pretty easily and for a fairly good price. I had said I couldn't find one like it for Ron John's Surf Shop, but I had forgotten to use the two keywords no spill. So I didn't mention that before, and so I wanted to make sure to mention it to you guys to include those keywords, no spill. I did see another listing after I added those words, and I don't remember what they had sold theirs for, but I listed mine for $30 because I don't remember if theirs was a sold or if it was a asking price. And mine sold for $30, full asking price with no discount. Okay, next one was a wallet. So I do check out the wallets. We talked about wallets last week, just like a brand that I had come across, a few of them. I'm pretty sure I picked this up at the same store. Might even have been that same day, but it really caught my attention. This very retro looking LL Bean logo. As you can see, it was super clean. I don't think it was ever used. Very kind of vintage looking LL Bean logo. Freestyle USA was the brand. Anyway, definitely vintage. We listed it for $50. My husband was very ambitious. He listed this one. And I was like, well, I don't know about that. But because he listed it so high, we got an offer for $35 and we took that. So that was probably higher. I might have put it at 25 or 30, but we got 35 for it. So that strategy worked pretty well. I sold a pair of Dance Goes. I don't pick up a ton of Dance Goes anymore. They have to be in really good condition and maybe something a little bit more interesting. I like the Mary Jane style of this, and I like the fact that they're red. And I picked these up, believe it or not, at an antique mall in town. So go figure. So they were, now I gotta remember how much they were. I think they were about $20 at the antique mall. And I went ahead and paid that because they were in good condition, and it was 15 or 20. Now I can't remember. They were in good condition. Like I said, they were red. I did a quick comp search on my phone, and they seemed like an okay thing. So these did sell for $50. So let's just say I kind of doubled my money on that. Next one up. But you never know where you're going to find inventory, even at an antique mall. Okay, that's a subject for another video. I think we should have a video about that. Okay, so here we are with Jam's World. This is the first, I think I talked about this shirt in the update video for my listing challenge. And this one was one of the first items that sold from the listing challenge. And It's not surprising. It's a Jams World shirt. It was from that big Hawaiian shirt haul that I've talked about a few times and have a video about. Anyway, Jams World is definitely a brand you want to keep an eye out for. Here's a label. This is an older vintage label for Jams World. And this one I put as is. Now, the reason is I didn't want to deal with the stains on this. A lot of the pieces that came from a lot of the Jams World shirts and Hawaiian shirts I got from this estate were in plastic. Like they had been to the dry cleaners. So it was possible the stains just hadn't come out or whatever. Anyway, so as you can see, it's kind of like above a button. It's a discolored area. You really have to be looking for it because the pattern is so busy. But I knew I wasn't going to ask the same kind of price that I had been getting on some of the other shirts. And so I just listed it as is and sold it fairly quickly for $50. And I don't think, I did start a coupon this week, but I didn't have that coupon going yet. So $50 for that. Then we sold a hat. So like I said in my little $5 haul video from yesterday or Sunday, by the time you see this, we sell hats. They're just bread and butter. We pick them up either at regular thrift stores or at our little bins. And the next $5 haul video that I put out, we'll talk about hats. And I had promised that. So this one was, I had sold something hat related. I think it was hat related for the Portland Timbers. Anyway, minor league soccer, something like that. I don't know. It's a soccer team in Portland, and the buyer was in Oregon who bought it, and it sold for $18. I don't always do the research. I buy the stuff. Some stuff gets listed by my husband, and then he does the research, so I don't always know exactly the full story. Same thing, we sold another hat. Did not sell for $48. My husband was shooting high again. But we went ahead and took a $25 offer. We had no idea where to put the pricing for this hat. So we just decided to throw it out there. It was pretty obscure. It was in really good condition. So he started high and we figured we'd see what kind of offers or, you know, things that we would get from it. And it sold for $25, which I'm always happy to get $25 for a baseball cap that I only paid a couple bucks for. And it's easy to list, easy to ship. Here's another skirt from my listing challenge that I got on there, and it sold pretty quickly. This was a, let's find the tag. San Antonio Rose. So from San Antonio, Texas, a made in the USA. So definitely vintage. It was flannel. It was this big, lots of material, flannel tiered skirt. So very Western, very prairie. I knew someone would have to have it, and they did. It sold for $31.59. I believe I sent out a 10%. Is that right? Yeah. I sent out a 10% offer that somebody accepted on that. So just about almost $32 for that skirt. And it was very like if it was my style, which it's not at all, but if it was, I would be like so comfortable. Like I would sleep in that. It reminded me of my nightgowns when I was a kid. Anyway, I got really good feedback. She's thrilled. She's like, it's way better than she expected. So sounds good. Okay, another item from the listing challenge sold. This one sold for $16. Again, an offer I sent out. Bison Designs is the name of the brand, as you can see. And I picked this up one time just because it looked interesting, and it kind of had that 90s ribbon belt vibe to it. I think it's a Colorado company, and they're all men's belts as far as I can tell. I mean, a belt's a belt, really, you know. But I like the pattern on this one, and I've seen them since. I didn't pick up the last one I saw. Maybe the pricing was, I just wasn't sure if I should have picked this one up. And this one might actually have come from it's possible it came from the bins, because I do pick up a lot of belts there, or it came from a thrift store up that I like to go to. I buy some belts there too for a couple bucks usually. Anyway, so I would pick up Bison Designs. It sold, it got a lot of attention right away, and I got watchers, and I sent out the $16 offer, and it sold pretty quickly. So with $4 shipping, they were paying like $20 free shipping. This is a porcelain cup. I didn't have the saucer that goes with it. I went ahead and threw $30 on there. There were other mugs or teacups that I kind of had looked up that had the iron cross on it for when I was in the store and doing like really fast research. And some of those had really high prices, but then as I got home and dialed down my research, I found the name of the maker of mine. It has an impressed mark on the bottom, so it was Beyer and Bach, and the one I found had a saucer and only sold for $20. But I went ahead and listed mine with no saucer, $30, and then the coupon had started, so 15% off of $30. I figured someone would want it. Okay, so this one is a nice little surprise, and this one I could have maybe squeezed a little bit more money out of it if I had really thought about it. I had picked it up at the same time, or not the same time, one day at a local thrift. There were some 70s shirts, a couple like new old stock like this, and a couple that were out of their packaging, but you could still see the folds and everything. And I've sold like one or two, and then some are still listed. Now I went back to that thrift like a week later, and I saw this, and I went, you know what, I bet it's the same person. But it's this vintage Towncraft, which is JCPenney's, pennies back in the day. And it was funny because they call it, all over it, it's called a polo shirt, right? And they say polo shirts with pockets. So I don't know if any of you remember when t-shirts were called polo shirts, and when did polo shirts become polo shirts? I don't know anything about it. But people like vintage t-shirts. So I was like, oh, this is cool, but it's brown and it's small. So I listed it for $25. I was like, I'd be totally happy with that. I paid $1.50. So I finish my listing, and I kind of keep scrolling down in my comps that I had been trying to look for something like this. And I found a blue one that had sold for $75. And I was like, what? Right? And then I found another one that sold for, like the $50 range. And I was like, oh, okay. So I run back over to my listing, and I bump my price up to $50. I probably should have bumped it to like $60 or even $70. The blue one was blue. It was also a larger size. And so I thought, you know what, $50 is good. Well, I have a 15% coupon running. I probably, if I had bumped it to 60 or 70 or whatever, then with the coupon, that probably still would have sold, but you never know. So it was $50 minus the 15%, but it sold in like an hour. See, that also tells me I probably should have started with a higher price, but oh well. I made some money. Another item that I sold from my... Oh, I missed one. I've got to show you that one. Okay, I'll try to get to it at the end. But anyway, so another skirt from my listing challenge. I've been really trying to attack my backlog of vintage clothing. And this is the brand was called Tumbleweeds. So it was very 70s, probably later 70s, because it does have the care tag, from Phoenix, Arizona. And it was just I found two very similar style skirts on the same day, and paid like $3 or something. And anyway, this one sold fairly quickly for $27.99. I think it was an offer that I had sent out to favoriters, likers, whatever you call it. So that was pretty cool. And then Mephisto. This shoe brand used to be a no-brainer. Like, you would, if you just saw it and it was in good shape, you would get it and buy it and sell it. And I've noticed and heard from other resellers that it's kind of slowed down a little bit. But this style, it's like a leather sneaker style. It like sells for like $300 new. Crazy. So those sold for $80. I did list them during my challenge, and they got $12 off with the discount. But again, sold within a few days. So definitely something I would keep an eye out for, especially, I mean, if I saw Mephisto, I would definitely check the style and try to look it up and see if it was worth it, because some are definitely going to be better than others. So, oh look, I'm already set up here. I can find what I missed. Here we go. It is a coffee mug, Tailoring, one of our favorite coffee mug brands. This one, I loved it because it had a hippo on it, and ooh, little hippos. So this is from their line called Primitives, and I'll show you the other side. It had a frog on that side, and then the bottom had a very faint, it does say Japan on the bottom. Well, you can't even see it in that picture. It's Japan in a circle that's incised in the bottom. So anyway, I use the term house hippo in that. Don't ask me the origin. I don't know it off the top of my head. If you know the origin of the whole house hippo thing, go ahead and leave it in the comments below. I just know that certain vintage groups and people who thrift are always looking to have some kind of hippo figurine or hippo whatever. And they get very excited and they like to share on Facebook that they found a house hippo. Anyway, it was maybe more like a couple years ago, or last year. But anyway, I threw that in there just in case. But Tailoring has their following no matter what. So that sold for $35 minus the 15%. So happy with that. Okay, let's switch over to Posh. Iron Man, this is another one. Let's see, did I list this during the challenge? I don't think so. I think I listed it right before, but I found it not that long ago, and I went ahead and just took a $15 offer for this visor. This is the Iron Man, you know, the triathlon. It's their logo, and then the company is called Head Sweats. Another hat sold. This was Vans. I picked this up to see if my son wanted it, but he didn't really go for it. So we just put it up for sale, and it sold for $19. Torrid, again, not all Torrid sells, and I don't think it necessarily sells super high, but there are some pieces that will sell fairly quickly. And this was one of them. I think this also was right before my challenge started. I listed this one, so it didn't take very long. It sold for $18, and I picked it up because it was a size 4, which is one of the larger sizes for Torrid, and also because of the pattern. It was a dark floral, which is a good keyword to use. A black floral, dark floral. Sometimes people look for that type of print. And it had roses, you know, kind of a cool looking little piece there. So Patagonia, yes, it's 100 degrees in most of the world, and people are thinking ahead to their hiking, and they're thinking ahead to their cooler days to come. So we sold these Patagonia Capeline black leggings, a base layer. Anyway, $27 for those. I think I got those at a yard sale for $2. This camera backpack, so funny. I think this was a bins find for my husband. I don't know where it came from. It's just one of his random things that he lists, and I finally cross-posted it. But I got a question about dimensions, and I was like, what? So I look, and like my husband had no measurements in the listing. So he may be perfect in other ways, but he's not always perfect with his listings. Anyway, neither am I, of course. I make mistakes all the time. I think there was something I needed to show you the mistake I made. I'll see if I think of it. Anyway, so I added the measurements, and then she sent me an offer, and we were just like, let's get rid of it. It was 20. She just sent me a $20 offer, and I was like, yeah, you can have it. So again, it was just something bouncing around, and it's possible in his eBay. Now I have to be fair. It's possible in the eBay listing that he put the dimensions in the item specifics, and then I missed that as I was transferring them over. So I should probably just assume that's what he did. Prana. These actually sold really fast, and I was surprised, but they were part of the listing challenge, and I know it's hard to see. Black is really hard to photograph, and sometimes I lighten up the picture a little bit, but I don't like to lighten the black up too much because then it washes out. But it did have like this white stitching. It was cargo, drawstring at the bottom. It just had a very Y2K kind of look, kind of, I don't know, skater. This is what happens when I film without having water nearby. Anyway, I cross-posted them to Posh, and they sold for $22. They'd been in my pile to be listed for a long time. This was an older listing, Untuck It. Anyway, sold for $22. It's a flannel shirt. I thought the Untuck It flannel would do a little bit better, but Untuck It in general has just slowed down quite a bit. So I've kind of stopped picking it up. This was an extra large. It took a while. I still have a couple listed. $22. Coach. Okay, so I don't do, you've probably noticed, I don't do a whole lot of designer. And every once in a while, though, I come across certain things, and I know a little bit about stuff. So, you know, I don't usually deal with designer because I don't want to deal with trying to figure out if something is real or not. But this Coach bag was at it was at one of my favorite thrifts that I like to go to, and it had the little wristlet bag inside, and it was only $12. And I thought, you know, I bet I could sell it for more than that. So what I did in the store to try to figure out if it was real, besides the fact that it's not the big Coach logo ones that seem to get faked more often, but one thing I did to just double check things in the store is I double checked the creed. Okay. Now I hope I don't see anything wrong here, but you know, you kind of, if there's, what do you call it? Spelling errors or things like that, that's a bad sign. But what I do is I take the number and I look up the number, and if the same bag is popping up in search results, then I'll go ahead and take a chance on it. So I would have gone higher on this, except as I was looking it over to list it, I realized that it did have some wear. So it's got two handles. I don't know if you can see. It's got like, it can be a crossbody, but it can also be a purse, and it has this shorter strap. And that shorter strap, and I don't remember if it was a little bit dirty inside. There was wear on some, like the trim, the leather trim was like gold painted. So there was wear on that shorter handle. It was supposed to be more gold, and it was worn off pretty good. So anyway, I forgot what I listed it at, 55 or something like that, and I got a $40 offer, and I said, sure thing, let's move it on. Smart Wool generally is a brand that I like to pick up. I think my husband found, I don't remember, one of us found the hat, but he listed it, and then I saw that he had listed it like pretty low, and I was like, what's that all about? And then I found out, I did my own research on the comps, and the comps were not that great for this newsboy style hat. And then plus ours had a couple, he said there was a couple flea bite, maybe moth bites or whatever in it. So we had it super low, and I took a $13 offer. It was fine. Then Flylow, this was a brand I didn't know. I looked it up in the store, and it, you know, it had some okay comps. Then I got home and realized it didn't have a size tag. I hate that. But it's like a snowboarding company. And anyway, it didn't sell super quickly, but not terrible. It was $21. Okay, so let's pop over to Ruby Lane. Despite my ignoring of Ruby Lane, I did have a few sales last week. I sold this serving spoon for $15. It is by Androck, and it had this really nice bullet shaped handle, Bakelite red handle. Now, back in the day, I would have been asking way more money for this, but I was looking at comps, and I thought, you know what, if I want it to move, I'm going to list it for $15. And it sold. This is a hair barrette in the shape of a seagull. That's all I have to say about that. I did get it. It was in a baggie with another like seagull, like a sterling seagull brooch. And so I have them listed separately. And this $10 barrette sold, I'll show you the back, sold for $10. See, nothing fancy. And then this was one of the little Barbie items that I took a little break from my listings because of my clothing listings, although technically they are clothing. They're just for a Barbie doll, not for me or for people. And these sold fairly quickly. They were in a lot of different Barbie shoes that I have, and most of the shoes I had were for clone Barbies, like they're not branded or anything like that. But these were actually branded Mattel from the 70s, made in Taiwan, and they had a really cool like lace up front design, and so those sold for $10. And then the next two Ruby Lane, they went to the same buyer. So this Flatware, it was one of the first listings I did when I reopened my Ruby Lane shop. And so like I've said, I do have Ruby Lane videos in my playlist. I actually have a Ruby Lane playlist, if anybody is curious about that. But it was one of the first things I listed, and it just needed, I guess, the right person to need this pattern. That's kind of true of most Flatware. I do have Flatware videos as well in my playlist. So let's go over to Etsy. This is my husband's Etsy shop. He just had one sale. Again, like we said, he's been working with his carpentry construction business, so he's not really been listing. So this clamp tool, primitive clamp tool, sold for $20. I realize we do have our shops, all our different shops, we do have them down below in the description, but they're under the link tree. So you click on one link and then you can see all the different links. So I think I'm going to change that for this video. I think I'll put all the different places that we sell as separate links. Would that be easier for you guys to look at? I don't know if anyone is going in the description to look at our shops or anything. You don't have to. I just, sometimes people get curious about shops or about, how you do a listing or whatever. And so I want to make that so that you're aware that you can check them out. And I showed this, I think, last week because I had sold one of the hamburger flippers out of this variation listing, but I sold this one, and this one actually sold for $15, and it was a no-name brand. I think it just was Stainless USA, and someone bought that for $15. And I sold some wood-handled flatware in the Flatware shop. And this little set went for $50. And then over in the pattern shop, we have this pattern by Simplicity. It's a costume, a reenactment type pattern, sold for $20. I think I've sold this a couple times. And the other pattern was a Vogue, very easy Vogue for $12. And then my Depop sale, can we say Barbie? All right, so I did one day I was at the thrift store and I was like, oh yeah, Barbie, I gotta remember, look for pink, look for pink. And I came around the corner and in the sweaters, there was this fleece and I was like, holy pink. And it's really hard to photograph, but it is like a neon pink. And then I looked at the tag, I couldn't believe it. It was Free People. And it just said FP Movement. Okay, so that's Free People. So I found the name of the style and everything like that. So interestingly enough, even though I tend to focus on putting vintage over on Depop, I have to remember if I have anything somewhat trendy, which is rare because I am not trendy at all and I don't usually know what's going on. But if anything is somewhat trendy, to go ahead and put it on Depop for the young folk. Anyway, it didn't sell for $51. I had just had it on sale because I had so many people liking it. I thought maybe a sale would kind of pop somebody. And I kept getting kind of lowball offers. And finally someone offered me $40, which was like the lowest I wanted to go. And I accepted the $40 offer. Now, if you know Depop at all, the offers are not binding. So even though I accepted it, she would still have to like pay for it for the offer to go through. So it's still available to someone else to purchase. So what I did was, and a lot of those offers just turn into nothing. So people just disappear. So what I did this time, I kind of had heard this as a recommendation, is I accepted the offer, but then I straight away emailed her and messaged her and said, hey, I just accepted your offer. If I get payment in time, I can ship this out tomorrow. So that's what I did, and she went ahead and paid right away. So I think I just need to remember to do that more often. Maybe the notification is not that great, or it's just kind of helping to seal the deal. So anyway, okay, so that was my week. As you can see, a lot of the things that I did sell came from my listing challenge, so probably definitely worth it. I just wanted to throw something out there and just see what you thought, if anyone is still watching at this point, is how would you feel about doing a live chat someday? I would definitely have a topic that we were going to talk about, because I know as you build up live chats, not everybody comes at first, so I do want to have something specific that I want to talk about. So anyway, if there's something that you've thought about that you want to do a live chat with me on, let me know in the comments below. I was thinking I could even do a final summary of the listing challenge, and then everyone else can share the list, how their listing challenge went now that July is pretty much over. That was one idea, or we could just talk about some other kind of reselling topic if you want, or things to sell or something like that. So anyway, if you've got ideas, I have never run a live chat show. I have been guests on quite a few, but I have never run it, so I would have to research what I'm doing, all that kind of stuff. Just a thought. Anyway, I hope you guys had a great week. Also, feel free to let me know what you sold, how your selling week went. Did the listing challenge, did that seem to help you or whatever? Or just tell me about your best sale. Anyway, I'm going to go now, and I will talk to you later.